Breaking into the music business is a unique journey for everyone, but the love of music and the culture is the connecting tie. In an industry that wasn't always welcoming, these are the untold stories of how Canada's most prominent Black entertainment professionals got started in an industry that never sleeps. I'm Gemini, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to the AMPLIFY Podcast. Sudbury, Ontario-born and raised media personality Jesse Jones achieved his start in entertainment as the byproduct of legendary arts and culture duo Denise and Alan Jones, who spearheaded the Jambana One World Festival.
I got started sleeping under tables backstage at large-scale reggae shows when my parents would put them on in Toronto. So I came into this industry by like just the sheer energy of growing up in it. Both my parents, so Denise Jones and Alan Jones, my parents are actually trained in the theater, so they met in the theater. My mother actually went to university here at Windsor and then went back home, and my parents met in the theater. But they've always been really stimulated by production. And so when they moved to Canada, they actually, that's when Jones & Jones Productions was started.
Similarly, as is the case for DJ Four Corners, music was always in the cards for both of these talented stars. From his father's jamming sessions with Rick James as a funk band musician to DJing a family party as a sixth grader, Four Corners was destined to be the life and soul of the party.
Growing up, there was always music in the house. There was instruments. There was tons of records, and there was turntables. And I remember as a kid fooling around with turntables, and like even my grade 6 birthday party, I had some friends over, and I technically DJ'd that party, even though I didn't really know what DJing was at the time. I was just the type to play records all the time, and when I would buy music or have my parents buy music for me, it would be records. My friends were getting CDs. I always wanted records because I knew I could play them on the record players. I could make my little mixtapes. And before I knew what a mixtape was, I just made these tapes that had all the songs that I wanted on them. This is before I had a CD burner. I had to go to my friend's house to burn CDs. I didn't have one. But yeah, it was always there. And then as I grew and got to the age where I was starting to choose my own music and buy my own music, I, like I said, was still buying records and discovering hip-hop and different kinds of music. And then as I got older, I discovered parties. And that's when I was like, oh, DJing is not just Jazzy Jeff standing behind the Fresh Prince. You can actually like do something else, and it's cool, and it was fun. And I started going to these parties and seeing the DJ be the focal point, the person controlling the energy in the entire room, and like making everybody in there happy. And somewhere in that, I just saw myself in that place. And I was like, I think that's what I want to do.
So in short, recognizing your destiny is critical. Whether you realize there's more to DJing than Jazzy Jeff standing behind the Fresh Prince, or your high school teacher pinpoints it for you, as was the case for advanced publicist Jamelia Campbell. When you find your talent, you've got to harness that bad boy.
Okay, so I always start my story back in middle school, because that's where it started for me. I think it was really important to have teachers that speak these things into your life and into your understanding as a youth, because even if you don't understand what they're talking about, then them planting the seed goes such a long way. And so for me, what happened in the 7th grade, I had a teacher say to me that I should either be like a lawyer or a publicist. And I was like, okay, sure. Like I was in the 7th grade, I was like, okay, that doesn't mean anything to me really. But like because of media, because of TV and movies, like I know what a lawyer is conceptually. And then looking into like school, what it took to be a lawyer, I was seeing that it takes like 7 years, like post high school to get, I was just like, not for me. Like all that extra school, I was like, it's not for me. But I loved the arts growing up. I was always engaging, whether I was like acting or dancing or singing or playing instruments, like all of it. And so I don't know, I kind of had like a eureka moment that it would be great if I could pair this career idea from my teacher being a publicist and this entertainment industry that I love so much. And I come from very risk-averse West Indian Jamaican parents who were not supportive of a career in the arts and on stage when it was just not stable to them. And so I was like, this is a way for me to pair a stable job that's involved in the industry that I love so much. And so after I graduated high school, I was kind of trying to figure out like what I wanted to do, what I wanted to get into, even though I had that kind of in the back of my mind from my teacher. And I decided to go to York University, and I got my BA in sociology. And I found that because when I was trying to figure out which BA I should get involved in, I went onto the websites and I was like checking out all the kind of different schools and the programs that they had available. And York actually listed like when people get these types of achievements of degrees, they've kind of gone into these careers. When I was checking out the different kind of degrees in sociology, people who got the sociology degree went into PR. And I was like, oh, great. So I have an interest in that discipline of sociology, like kind of learning about society and how people function, but also wanted to get into this PR field. So I got my BA in sociology. And then when I was like, okay, now I'm about to graduate, like career, like what do I do? I did what most young people do. I went to the internet to figure out like what are my next steps. I went to Google. And a lot of it was pointing towards getting started in the music industry, was either having connections, having a network, knowing someone, and I didn't know anybody going into the music industry. And so the other step besides knowing someone, having someone's bring you on, was getting an internship. And then so okay, like looking into internships and what does that look like? And I saw at that time that all the internships when it came to music were unpaid, and they came through school. You had to be a student because it was a part of like a curriculum or a part of like mandatory, things for credits so you can pass. And I was graduating, so I didn't feel that. I didn't feel the need. So I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go back to school. And so I went to Seneca at York, a college program, and I did a post-grad program for 1 year in corporate communications. And that program allowed me to do an internship when it finished. And I did the program, and then I did an internship at Sony Music Canada. And before my internship was over, they hired me full-time. So that's how I got started.
As the first Black female publicist at Sony Music Canada, Jamelia found her way into the corporate music boardrooms through an internship, while DJ Lissa Monet discovered hers in an entirely different way.
Music has always been a part of my life, my family. Like, we grew up listening to music. I just remember Saturday mornings was cleaning day. My mom would throw on 1-2 Whitney Houston and a Wham record and would just clean the house. And that would be like the introduction to music. And then on top of that, like, my dad was very adamant about us like learning music from the Caribbean. So we'd always have like calypso tapes and soca tapes from like Grenada and Trinidad. So music was always a part of my life. Even through high school, I went to a school for the arts. I took music, and I couldn't do anything without music. I couldn't sleep without it. I couldn't study without it. So music has just always been a part of my life. A really, really, really long time ago, I started going to nightclubs way before I was like legal to. And in that, I started developing a lot of friendships with a lot of DJs, Dr. J, starting from scratch, DOC, a lot of the like soca DJs and stuff like that. And in that, at the end of the night, normally what a lot of us would do is just like sit and talk about the night, the party, and mainly about music, because back then we were still spinning vinyl. And a lot of the new releases would come out on a Tuesday. So we'd always talk about like what the new releases were, who produced them, stuff like that. And in that, one DJ in particular, Captain Kirk from Four Corners, was like, you know your shit. Like, I'm gonna teach you how to DJ. And I was like, okay. So I would like go to his house like after school and like he'd teach me like how to like mix and scratch and stuff like that. And once I got comfortable, I bought my own set, and I would just be at home and I'd like DJ in my basement. And literally like a couple years after that, he hit me up and he was like, I got a residency for you, or I have a residency and I want you to open. And that's kind of how I started DJing.
DJ Four Corners, also known as Captain Kirk, mentored DJ Lissa Monet and tapped her to open for him at his residency. But even getting that residency wasn't guaranteed and definitely wasn't easy.
I started university. I went to York for journalism because I always loved writing, and all my teachers always said, oh, you're a great writer, you should be a writer. And when it was time for me to go to university, which my parents were very adamant that I go to university. It's right after high school. And I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. So I was like, I'll go for writing. So I went to York for 2 years. And while I was there, I realized this is not what I want to do. And also I discovered DJ culture really at that time by going to parties, ironically, at York University. And I dropped out. My mom was not happy. My dad was more understanding because he came from a musical background. My mom was just, you go to school, you get a job, you'll be good. And I know both of them just wanted me to be okay. So it's not like they were against me having a creative career. They just were very, very worried that I wouldn't be able to support myself. They wanted me to be good. But when I decided that this is what I wanted to do, I didn't really think about anything else. I kind of believe that that's how you have to be for something like this. You got to go all in, because if you don't, there are other people that are going all in that are going to surpass you. And not that it's a competition between people. It's just like trying to be an athlete. Like if you want to make it to the NBA, you have to play basketball every day, and that has to be your focus. You can't play other sports and basketball and expect it to work out. So my sport was music, it was DJing, and that's what I was going for. And I did not really have, it's funny you asked that. I never even thought about that. I didn't really have another plan. You eat what you kill. Some people that have been around for my whole part, that are not necessarily in this room right now, know the moment when I really decided this is what I'm gonna do. I was working at Rogers customer service, and I had a baby on the way, and it was at that moment that I decided, this is the time, I'm going for it. And I was advised by a lot of people, some who are in advance, who are some mentors that were like, no, Kirk, don't. I was like, I have to, because I found what I really wanted to do. And I thought to myself, if I don't go for it now, I'm never going to. I'm gonna, have this baby, I'm gonna settle down, and I'm gonna feel trapped into having to have a 9-to-5 and stay there forever, probably, maybe. That's how I felt at the time. And I went for it. So it was I had no choice. I gave myself no choice. So I got gigs and I made money to support myself and my family.
They say the best attitude for success is the willingness to do anything and learn everything. And sometimes getting the approval of your hero will give you the drive you need.
I feel like it was such a gift to have that experience, to see your two people so close to you come together, create something, and then it have a name that people connect to. And so that, I think, was my first driving light to kind of, and when I say sleeping under tables at shows, that was it. Like I was in the playpen at CBC with my mom, because at that time, like, you didn't have a sitter. So you bring, I was everywhere and I saw it all. And so you learn things. And I really feel blessed to have those experiences, because through what they were going through and learning on the fly and having mistakes with and all of that, I was able to go off and get my own experiences, right? I worked in corporate, many years. I've always been into branding and marketing. So, ended up going to Ottawa U for communications, coming back home, and shouts out to the crew at Sony BMG back in the day, because that's where I literally got my first internship and coordinator opportunity. Nicole Chrysostom Murray, Jen Highland, Ivan Berry, took a shot, got in there. And this is all while at home I'm seeing Jones & Jones happen, right? But I always knew, I want to get experiences everywhere, because one day it would be a dream to take it to the next phase as leading the company my parents started. But I wanted to go see how everyone was doing it in the infrastructure. And so, got started there, and I'd do anything at the record company. I told them I'd do anything. You want me upstairs packing CDs? At the time, it was CDs. I'll pack them. Do you want me to go help the street team? Yep. Actually, there was an opportunity to take over reception at lunch. And I jumped at it because, you know, you see everybody walking out the building at reception. And you also have the name list of who everybody is. And so I'm not saying I took the name list, but you know who the people are. And it allowed me FaceTime with everyone from artists to whoever, right? Why? I just thought it would be better there than being up packing, CDs. But at the end of the day, it's like experiences.
In every challenge, there's an opportunity, but you've got to jump at those opportunities, just like the one and only Honey Jam founder and FemFat executive director, Ebonnie Rowe.
In the early 90s, I started a mentor program for at-risk Black youth called Each One Teach One. So then I would be spending a lot of time with teenagers, and some of my female mentees would tell me some of the names that their 5-year-old brothers would call them that they were hearing in hip-hop music. In the middle of the day, college radio, no clean versions. So I approached Canada's biggest hip-hop DJ, DJ X, the Power Move show on CKLN, and told him about this unintended consequence of his amazing show, which had not occurred to him. So he asked me to come on the show. Then he said, I'll give you the whole 3-hour show to produce. We did the show. Listening to the show was the editor of Canada's entertainment magazine called Mic Check. They asked me to edit an all-female issue of their magazine, and the wrap party for that issue of the magazine was called Honey Jam. And so we had some performances, and then we were going to go home. And then people said, wait, this was so amazing. When is the next one? And I thought I'd try it for a year, and here we are 27 years later.
From misogynistic rap lyrics to positive affirmations, your words have an impact on shaping beliefs and driving behavior. And for many, including DJ Four Corners, speaking dreams into existence.
Originally, when I was looking at it and looking at those who had come before me, I just noticed, specifically with the people that I looked up to here in the city, I noticed they were on top of the world here, but not a lot of them were really moving around that much. And then I saw on the internet these DJs that were touring the world, not behind a rapper, but as the main act. And I looked at the two options and I was like, that one. And I'm a believer in vision boards and manifesting. So I figured if I call myself something to do with that, I'll be saying it every day, I'll be writing it every day, I'll be speaking it into existence, and I kind of have. I've been a lot of places.
So how do you go from your day job to your dream job? It was actually a 3-point turn for Randy Phipps, founder and principal of RP Communications.
My PR journey kind of, I don't want to say it started randomly, but I feel like I had a slow start. Prior to working in PR, believe it or not, I was a driver examiner. I was the person that you came to when you wanted to get your license, right turn, left turn, 3-point turn, pass, fail. I was actually doing that for like 8 years of my life, but I knew it wasn't the stop and the place that I was supposed to be. I had a cubicle, I had a desk, but I never put a photo up because I always knew that it was like a pit stop, but it was just a really long pit stop. So throughout my time there, it was a very cushy government job, breaks, lunches, all of those things. I had a couple friends that were starting charitable organizations, and they wanted me to be on their board, or they wanted me to be a member to help build the charity out. And then my role landed in public relations because I do have a background in journalism. I went to school for it, so it was kind of like a natural fit. So I honed my skills working at my government job during the day, but with these long breaks and long lunches. I lived close to home, so my commuting time wasn't excessive. So all of my free time went towards amplifying the charities that I worked with. One fights human trafficking in Canada, Free Them, and the other one, MJKO, which is short for Mentoring Junior Kids Organizations. We help at-risk youth learn life skills through the sport of non-contact boxing. And these charities have done remarkable things in their own rights. So I was a part of helping build that out and being the public relations director for each of them. And then soon after that, one of the charities blew up so much that we needed to get a PR organization to support us. So I was working alongside a PR agency. I was the in-house, and then they had an external organization that was managing all of the PR efforts. So we worked together. And then once again, I was like, this is like not what I'm meant to do. I'm not meant to be a 3-point turn, right turn, parallel park. Congratulations, you passed. And that's the very diluted version, because my life was flashed before my eyes every day because people don't know how to drive. And I was the one sitting in the car beside with them for 8 hours a day. So needless to say, I jumped at an opportunity that was presented to me to work at the agency. I worked there for 2 years. And then I decided I wanted to go out and do my own thing. And here we are today, 5 years later. This was the 5th year that my business has been around. And I'm happy that I made that decision.
Sometimes finding career happiness is more science than art. There's a magnetic draw that pulls you in. So even if you don't find your calling will eventually find you, just like it did for DJ Lissa Monet.
Yeah, really, honestly, like I knew I wanted to be in music in some shape or form. Initially, I think I wanted to be in the business of music, behind the scenes doing management or marketing, because that's what I went to school for. It's weird because out of high school, I kind of dabbled in a few options in regards to like what I wanted my profession to be. Everything from like, oddly enough, psychology to hair. And I remember telling my mom at one point I wanted to go to school for hair, and she was like, no, you're going to school, you're going to college, and you're going to finish this degree, and we'll see what happens after that. And even though I went to school and I took business administration, that was my major, and marketing was my minor, I still ended up in music. I still ended up being a DJ.
And yes, honey, the struggle is real, but so is the passion.
In the early days of Honey Jam, when I had the great paying job at the law firm, I was funding it myself for at least 10 years. And then it just became impossible to do that. We were able to get some more funding, but I don't even know from year to year what I will get, because it depends on what happens. And then after you've fulfilled your obligations to all the things that you asked for the money to do. It's very much a struggle. It is my passion project. So the Each One Teach One program ended, but I've incorporated some of the tenets of that into Honey Jam. And Honey Jam has basically become my life. But I do feel confident that I have done enough. So I don't feel that, oh my God, I have to hurry up and whatever. I don't feel that anymore. But I also feel that I've never had the opportunity of having the level of funding that I would like and the personnel. And if I've been able to do what I have been able to do without that, what could I do with it? I'd like to know what that's like. So that's one of the things that keeps me going. And then I love it, but I also would love a nap. I'd love a nap or a spa year.
Loving what you do is a vibe. No matter how tired you are, when you love what you're doing, nothing else matters. And the more you love what you do, the better your vibe's gonna be.
I feel like I'm literally the one that holds everyone's emotions in my hand. And I take them on the ride up and down. And I used to joke to my friends, like, watch, I'm gonna make everybody fall in love right now. Or watch, end of the night, I'm gonna get everybody laid tonight. And like, I just, it's a puppet master type situation where you're really just surrounded by people who are there for a vibe. And the vibe is felt through the music and the interactions with each other. But like the music is the soundtrack to it. Powerful. And powerful, and I can't think of anything more fun. I can't think of anything more enjoyable than being up there in the DJ booth or on stage, making that happen.
So, getting your foot in the door of this industry can be difficult, but not impossible. First comes the passion, then the belief. But do you have the hustle to keep those doors open? Tune in to next week's episode of Amplify to find out. I'm Gemini. Thanks for listening.